Thanks for being here today. My name is Les Borsai. I'm a co-founder of Wave Financial. We're one of the larger regulated asset managers that primarily do crypto and blockchain. I started my career in the music business, so community has been something that's really special to me. I got involved in cryptocurrency in 2013. Bitcoin was really high at 200 back then, and I was destined to try to find the next one and did the Ethereum pre-sale and many other pre-sales. I want to start off, we're so lucky to have all these people. These people are the core to NFTs, so it's really great that SALT was open to let us do this and kind of let us do it our way. But why don't we start with introductions?
Hey guys, I'm G Money. I'm a collector and investor in the NFT space. I'm well known for buying a CryptoPunk ape at the beginning of the year and forming a thesis around it that went viral on crypto Twitter, and I've been pushing the space forward ever since.
Hi everybody, my name is Eric, also known as Snowfro. I'm the founder of a NFT platform called Artblocks. I've been in the generative space for a long time, have been in the NFT space since claiming CryptoPunks in 2017, which is kind of the, at least for me, like the beginning of this. And yeah, crazy to be here. Thank you very much for having me.
Hi everyone, I'm Justin Aversano. I'm an artist, a nonprofit community art leader, and an art collector as well. And I'm excited and grateful to be here. Thank you.
Hi everybody, I'm Noah Davis, and I'm definitely the newest transplant to the NFT space on the stage. I joined in March when I sold the Beeple NFT at Christie's, where I'm a specialist in the contemporary department, now very, very much focused exclusively on NFTs.
Hey everyone, I'm Priyanka Desai. I work for a project called OpenLaw. OpenLaw has put together several different decentralized organizations, including Flamingo, which is an NFT DAO or collective of individuals that come together and purchase various NFTs, including digital art, collectibles, digital land in different metaverses, and invest in different NFT related projects.
Okay, so let's start with community, and I want to do this kind of free form instead of like calling on people, like jump in as it's a topic that might relate to you or be near and dear to your heart. So community has always been an important aspect in crypto, whether it's been for impact or just building economies around projects. Can you guys speak a little bit about the community and what it means? Okay, any one of you.
Yeah, I mean, I'll jump in, kind of rewinding. There's a platform called Discord. Discord is essentially like a Slack or AOL Instant Messenger. I don't know how much everybody knows, but it's a big community. Everybody gets together. And in 2017, right after the CryptoPunks project launched, CryptoPunks project is 10,000 unique 8-bit cartoons faces that are represented on the blockchain as an NFT or quasi NFT. A community was built then with about 20, 30 people on a regular basis, nerding out about this weird project of 10,000 pieces that everybody was just kind of like early on and kind of feeling this weird energy, because this is where this all kind of started. Over the course of those 4 years, we've gone from 30 people, 100 people, maybe a whole week with not a single comment in that chat, and then a couple days where it was just like day after, like comments every minute, to a community of about 20, 25,000 people where there hasn't been silence in that conversation for at least 6 months. I mean, not one moment when someone isn't typing. And what that means is that you have this individuality that's associated with owning something that's unique, a shard of the artist's vision, a shard of this NFT madness that's kind of happening. And people talk about that and they share it and they describe what it means to them, and they describe what it represents. I'm represented by a green zombie with a bunch of hair. Like, that's kind of how people know me in this space, because that's how I'm represented in the, and that community, I don't know that has existed to that degree before. I'm not a historian. I just think what we're experiencing is something different and disruptive from a human standpoint, something that we can all kind of belong. Now, belonging to the NFT space as a CryptoPunk owner could cost anywhere between $100,000 and $600,000. So that level of inclusivity is gone, right? I mean, it's like if you had it, you had it. But there's projects that come around every day that allow a new level of inclusivity, a new level of originality. And I think there's something really special there that goes beyond the value of these JPEGs that are just selling for a lot of money.
Pri, can you talk about how community plays into a DAO and what a DAO is? I mean,
Yeah, and I think that's a great primer. Discord is sort of the backbone for a lot of these NFT and internet communities. So if you're ever interested in a specific NFT collectible or something else, there's definitely a Discord for you. And I, never when anyone asks me like how they can get involved, I just recommend like popping into the Crypto Punks or Art Blocks Discord. So I'm just gonna plug that for you guys right now. On the DAO side, I mean, that sounds complicated. It stands for Decentralized Autonomous Organization. OpenLaw launched Flamingo, which is this NFT collective I was speaking about in the introduction, in September of 2020. There's about, I think, 67 different members now, including G Money and Snowfro here. The membership really, there's an active Discord community for Flamingo. We have weekly calls where we talk about different NFT collectibles, develop thesis and strategy around specific NFTs, pop into different communities. And what's really nice about these DAO structures, and just to kind of background on what a DAO is, I kind of skipped over that. It's a way for all of these members of this DAO to pool together their capital and then self-govern through on-chain proposal processes and then proposals to really distribute these strategies or allocate capital to these strategies. So Flamingo as a collective owns about 220 punks. They own, I want to say, over 1,000 art blocks. But beyond that, again, like digital land, they've invested in several NFT related projects as well. And so it's just like this wide swath where they have decided to allocate a certain percentage of their capital into these different categories. And so that, when you're speaking to a community, is really, really important. And it's a really interesting way for these members to kind of cut through the noise of Twitter and the internet and maybe some of these other discords and just come together and rally around specific projects that they're really excited about.
one of the things I love about the space is really just the innovation and the disruption that happens in the space. If we take a look at DeFi, DeFi, I think, really came out of a frustration in finance, which is good for this panel. NFTs, to me, kind of carried on that same ethos. And, the disruption I'm talking about is obviously returns in DeFi and, existing gallery systems in NFTs. Do you want to talk about that initial disruption? And
Yeah, so I think what really attracted me to the NFT ecosystem at first was, if you have this view of assets going digital long term, you want to be owning NFTs, right? Because everything in the real world is an NFT, right? So everything is non-fungible except for cash. So when I think about it through that lens, and I think about the future, and I think about the way things are headed, I'll give you like a little anecdote. On the first day of quarantine last year, I bought a PlayStation. I hadn't played a video game in over 10 years. I download Fortnite. I start playing Fortnite with my friends and their 12-year-old nephews. And the first thing these kids ask is, what skins did you buy? And I'm like, skins? I'm like, they don't give me any special powers. Like, there's no way I'm spending $8 on a skin. Fast forward like 2 or 3 weeks later, I'm buying every skin I could possibly get my hands on. And so like it was then, and this is before I knew what an NFT was. This was in March, April of 2020. And it was then that I was like, that kid today is 12 years old. 10 years from now, he's going to have his own discretionary income. And he's going to be totally okay with owning an asset in a totally digital form. It doesn't need to be physical. So there's going to be this massive super cycle here over the next 10 to 20 years where more things will be coming in a digital format. So when I found NFTs, it started making sense to me right away, right? Where it's like, here you can totally own an asset. It's provable on chain with this immutable ledger, which is the essence of blockchain. And you can have this ownership structure. So as I started formulating a thesis around NFTs, I was like, well, I think that there's this massive super cycle over the long term, and NFT art and NFT assets will be one of the first ones that will be taking advantage of this.
I think going along those same lines and thinking about curation, one of the things that's also been really amazing is the ability for art blocks or Christie's, or even you, Justin, with the Twin Flames, to really take, not just taste and perspective on an artist, but the ability to select those artists and support them. Do you guys want to talk a little bit about that, and maybe quantum as well?
I'd like to talk a little bit more about how G Money and I connected through the Discord that Snowfro was discussing earlier. And that conversation led to not only my work being collected by a whole plethora of new age crypto art collectors, but creating a public art exhibition around the art we are talking about. And I think it's important to recognize that without these communities we're creating online and integrating it in person in the public space, and I think that's a place where I like to spend my time, is bridging the worlds of physical and digital, and how we get our online community in a space like we are here all together right now. And it's as simple as the art leading the way, inspiring us to work together and create a public art exhibition like G Money and I have curated through my nonprofit called Save Art Space. The show was called Pixelated, and we did 3 cities. We crowdfunded through the punk collectorship, and I think that alone, seeing collectors band together for art, for the community, for the artists, was probably the most impactful thing to witness. Because when have you seen Picasso collectors or, you know, Francis Bacon collectors get together and say, let's do public art around this as a unit? No, they're all putting it in their vaults, or they're putting it in their homes. So I think the online distribution brought us together as not only friends and collectors and business partners, but we're building the space out as we move forward. And I think it's incredible what just one online conversation can bring about. And we're here today because of this. Like, I met all these people, these amazing trailblazers in the space through that one Discord. I think it's magic what community can achieve if you just have the conversation with the person sitting next to you, or the screen name you see. And I think that one conversation could change your lives. It's changed mine.
You stole my joke. I was going to say nobody gets together from the Mark Rothko fan club to do an exhibition in the streets when a big Rothko comes to market. That's how Justin and I met. Justin contacted Christie's when we announced we were selling the CryptoPunks from the collection of Larva Labs in our evening sale. And Justin and Save Art Space did incredible work to realize this vision of the punks invading New York City through public advertisement. And that was incredible. I mean, Justin and Save Art Space and G Money helped to promote this sale in a really impactful and important way. And that just never happens with any other artist.
One of the things that's really interesting, and I'm actually curious about, is how hard was it to sell Christie's on doing the CryptoPunks? Because I mean, Christie's has been around since what, 1760?
Yeah.
And follow up to that is how impactful is that for the NFT space? Does that validate the piece as real art? I mean, not that it isn't real art.
Yeah. So Punks was easy because it was after Beeple. Beeple was a little trickier because that was the first art that doesn't exist that we sold. And I think that the timing was really crucial, because we got this opportunity towards the end of the first round of the pandemic, I guess, in the beginning of this year. And we had spent the last 6 or 8 months doing a lot of things for the first time. So doing something for the first time is no longer scary. Usually Christie's is a very risk-averse company. But it was actually surprisingly simple to get this across the finish line. And I think it was especially attractive because of the opportunity to take cryptocurrency for payment. That was actually the way that I wrapped up the entire opportunity for the business to review. We're selling this asset that is non-traditional. It doesn't technically have a physical representation. So you don't have to photograph it. You don't have to take care of it. You don't have to insure it. That's all good. And we can take cryptocurrency for payment, because I knew there were certain executives who were really curious about this, and definitely very many of our top clients are really curious about when we were going to step into the cryptocurrency fray. So taking ETH for that NFT was really the way that we moved it all forward.
And now you're doing a collaboration with Art Blocks. How does that come about, where you make a decision on what you're going to collaborate on, what's coming next?
So the Art Blocks consignment is coming from the collection of a guy who goes by the Nom de Guerre Barcella in Canada. And most of the works in the consignment were minted directly from the smart contract. So that's actually really a collaboration between Christie's and Barcella. But I'm working directly with Eric and Artblocks to help to promote this consignment. We did a after dinner mints episode recently, which is Snowfro's and Artblocks weekly. Is it weekly?
Every Sunday night.
Every single week, and talk about community, right? Weekly podcast, live podcast video session, I guess, with the people. So that's the new paradigm. It's really about engagement and having a constant connection and a meaningful, organic, true connection to your audience.
Did it feel like a validation when Sotheby's did the Bored Apes?
I'm not going to talk about Sotheby's Bored Apes.
Considering you did it first, it's okay.
Well, hey, no, look, 101 in one lot is a lot. That's all I'm going to say. I'd rather focus on one ape at a time.
Exactly. So obviously this is an audience of finance people. Let's talk now a little bit about, NFTs as an asset class and where we see it going in finance. And that might be a good one for you to start on.
Yeah. So, one of the things to me that I found interesting right from the start, like I said earlier, is that if everything in the real world is an NFT, that means you can bring everything on chain, right? So as I was thinking about that, I'm like, okay, great. Like as I look 10, 20 years into the future, besides just, let's say, this massive super cycle of younger kids growing up and being okay with digital ownership, what happens if we bring, financial products on chain, right? Where the market cap is massive. What happens if we bring mortgages on chain, right? You're not going to bring mortgages on chain tomorrow, right? Because there's trillions of dollars of assets there. But you need to kind of get that total that TVL, the total value, locked up, so that the chains prove themselves and they prove that they have that security. And then over time, as people feel more comfortable with the security of all these assets, you will be bringing stuff on chain, right? Like, what is a mortgage? A mortgage is an NFT. What is a house? A house is an NFT. So as those things come on chain, right, you're going to have this massive opportunity where these products and these protocols are being built today to support the art market and collectibles and things that we know and understand as humans. But then long term, right, you're going to be getting all these assets that are coming, right? And that to me is like a really interesting part from an investor standpoint. Like I spent 20 years in traditional finance, and to me, like looking at NFTs, I'm like, wow, like this is, much the same way if you look at like the global GDP and you take a look at the finance sector and what percentage is that of GDP, like DeFi is going to be an important part to NFTs, but NFTs to me is the major market, right?
NFTs definitely has a broader appeal, so it impacts so much more. Generative art's been around since the 60s, and we talk a lot about on-chain and off-chain, and I'm not sure that everyone understands that, so we might want to, just explain that a little bit. But we really saw the acceleration in sales, I believe, with anything that was on-chain. A lot of the great art that is sadly off-chain may not have the same impact. Is there a reason?
Well, to touch on the concept of on-chain, so we say the phrase on-chain all the time, and what that basically means is that the information relevant to the asset, in this case an NFT, is stored on the blockchain versus not stored. So with an NFT, you can't actually put a home inside of the Ethereum blockchain. So it's considered an asset represented by a token, and the token is represented on the Ethereum blockchain. In the art world, a traditional NFT is stored as an image on a decentralized infrastructure, in general called IPFS, interplanetary file storage. That is not a blockchain. It is a source of information that can be managed and uploaded to by anybody, but it's not on the blockchain. What's on the blockchain is the actual proof of ownership based on cryptographic hash of the information that's on IPFS. So sorry if I'm kind of losing you guys here, but it's a little bit complex. But the point being is that even though there's a lot of commentary about stuff like art not being on chain, no matter what, you can still prove that you own it, even if these other sources and these infrastructure places go down. You can still prove that you own that digital photograph and that digital image with information that's stored on chain. And really, at that point, it's your job to, when you buy a $10,000 piece of art that's not stored on chain, for you to also put it on a thumb drive, maybe put it in a safe. Like if I go to a gallery and I buy a piece of art, I'm not just going to shove it in a box. I'm going to be very careful with it. I'm going to put it on my wall. And that responsibility lies within the NFT space as well. What he's alluding to with like on-chain art is essentially all of the information, or most of the information necessary to reproduce an image, actually lives on the Ethereum blockchain, which is beautiful, but incredibly limiting as well. So in many cases, what I specialize in is generative art. Artblocks is a platform that enables generative art to be created and managed on chain. There's something really special to me about it being on chain and to a lot of the community that participates, but it's not the same. It's not like one is better than the other. It's just two different technical qualities of NFTs that are to be discussed. Sorry if I totally lost you there. I don't know if does that kind of cover.
I think that does, and the other thing is when we talk about chains, we're primarily talking about Ethereum right now, even though we're seeing, noise being made from Solana or Smart Chain, the Binance stuff. So can we talk about, the differentiation with Ethereum? Obviously, there's a whale culture that exists with Ethereum that drives a lot of these prices. And, how are other chains going to impact it, and how important is Ethereum in the ecosystem?
Anybody else want to take that? I mean, to me, Ethereum is the gold standard. It's where I claim my CryptoPunks. It's where I've been for the last 4 years. It does not mean that something not on Ethereum is not going to be successful. It's just where, it is. Ethereum is the Christie's, right, of the blockchains. And so, yeah, there's many other, I'm sure, auction houses.
I think when good art starts appearing on Solana, that's going to change the conversation. But for right now, I mean, it's really just copy and paste what we already have on the Ethereum blockchain. So until that changes, then there's this conversation is a little irrelevant. I think Solana is a great chain for DeFi, but right now for NFTs, as far as I can tell, there's some room for improvement.
So yeah, so as a collector, right? Like one of the things that I always tell artists that are coming on chain is like, well, drop it on Ethereum, right? Like there's a certain sense of gravitas with it, right? It's like branding, right? It's like if you're gonna go on a side chain, like you could be like the world's best artist, but there is some sort of branding that goes around with it, right? Like if you're selling a piece for $10,000 or more, a couple $1,000s, like do the $100 of minting costs necessarily matter? Not really in the long run, right?
No, and for me, it's even something else. I mean, I take a look at DeFi, and what they did in DeFi is they made markets. These are market makers, and it's exactly what has happened with NFTs. So when we talk about someone buying the floor, because at the end of the day, these are also financial instruments, that can't happen without the whale culture that exists in Ethereum, and I think a lot of the other chains don't have that. So can we speak about, some of the whales, and I won't call them out, that might buy the floor and we see the prices move. That's a good one for you.
You want to talk about people buying the floor?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, it's just like a financial asset, right? Like it's like if you want to deploy money into a project, right? It's like you could buy something either at the really high end, or you can buy something that's a floor, the cheapest ones, and those are generally more liquid, right? If you buy something at the really high end, when you do go to sell it, you might need an auction house to sell it. You might need, you won't get instant liquidity when you choose to sell it.
I think I'm talking about buying the floor wide, buying many pieces, and it actually moves the price.
Sweeping the floor.
Yeah. No, I mean,
floor.
yeah, it definitely happens, right? But I think the mindset is, right, for sweeping the floor is like, I want to be able to, let's say, if I want to get 10, right? I want to be able to sell them on the way up, like kind of position size it and manage the risk. And I think that to me is like a lot of the thought process behind sweeping floors.
And in terms of, that happening, I mean, obviously it creates value for the collectors. How does it impact the artists, or does it?
Oh, I mean, the royalties, right? Like every project has a different set of royalties, but generally it's around somewhere between 5 and 10% for the most part. And so, Justin can speak to that. Like when we spoke, I remember he came to me and he sold 100 of his photos for half an ETH each, and they sold out in a week, maybe
like 3 days.
In 3 days, and now you have a 10% royalty.
10% royalty.
10% royalty. What was the last sale?
Like $2 million.
Yeah, and that was $1,000 to the original sale.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like as an artist, like what's
I mean,
how's that felt?
royalties for me as an artist is the key, most important part about NFTs in general, because it's doing something that the traditional art world has lacked for living artists forever. And now the artists get to take their power back, and I think that's the most game-changing aspect about like, yes, the financial tools are great, the liquidity is amazing, but I think as an artist, as a consumer and a user and an activist for it, it's like the royalties like saved my life and changed my life and brought a whole new self-sustainability that I could only have dreamed of. But this new technology is literally the caretaker for artists to finally do their job and create art for humanity and not struggle or be in debt. Like, this allows you to propel and be abundant. And I think this is why I got into NFTs, is simply because there's a royalty aspect, and seeing it play out and receiving royalties is like changes your whole perspective. And once you understand that, you realize how important it is for not only in this moment with NFTs, but for art moving forward forever. Like, this is the new standard for artists signing contracts and smart contracts. It's like, if you're not getting a royalty, you don't do the job, you don't make the art.
Yeah. There was a huge controversy about secondary market royalties in 2019, 2020. And, somebody just put it very simply, and I can't say this enough. NFTs are allowing artists to participate in their own success. Period. That has never existed in the traditional art world. And that now exists on a weekly payout basis without having to have somebody like say, oh, the check is in the, like, it literally is happening. And everybody in the space is being elevated as a result of it. We're not there yet where this happens automatically. This happens automatically with some platforms, not others. People are coming around. But the important part is that the precedent has been set. And it's being abided to for some massive sales. So my best friend sold a NFT the other day for about $6 million. And he just turned around. He did it in a private sale. And he turned around and sent 5% to the artist, which is the standard for art blocks, 2.5% to art blocks. The platform is participating in its own success. The artist is participating in their own success. And what that does is it brings joy to the people selling the piece to a degree. Like, it almost, like, you can be proud, not shy or like, awkward with the artist. Like, oh man, I just sold your piece. Like, I just sold your piece and I just sent you $300,000 because I sold your piece. And it's special. It sounds really crazy. I think there's no way that if you guys aren't totally ingrained in NFTs that this doesn't sound totally crazy. I think everything that we're saying has to sound crazy, especially to anybody that's educated. And I mean, it is. It's like, as I think the more educated you are, the harder it is to just kind of really want to understand what's happening here. But I just encourage people just to take a step back and understand that everything that you've learned about community and art and intuition is changing here. Give it a chance and give it a shot, because it's really special on so many different levels.
I really want to say, oh, sorry.
Oh, I'm just gonna say, for the record, I'm all for it. For artist resale, I think it's very much overdue. And probably the traditional art world needs to give artists a lot more credit than they normally do. I mean, we wouldn't exist if it weren't for artists. So the idea that artists don't deserve to participate in their success, the idea that they weren't already participating in their success, is really upsetting to me. That's part of why I gravitated towards NFTs. Because this stuff, I feel like there's a utopian edge to everything that we're talking about, or utopian capability or a possibility. And if I can help to, push it forward, then I'm all for that.
But when Christie's secondary market royalties?
So
I say that jokingly. I spoke to Borsai, who was actually going to manually pay
there you go.
each
See?
of the artists
Yes.
their royalties.
Yeah. So this is the new paradigm. My clients are not going to great lengths to avoid compensating the artists. They're going to great lengths to compensate them, to do the thing that people used to, try to not do.
So innovations often have kind of pushback from traditional infrastructures. I read something that Gagosian had put out, being kind of vehemently against NFTs.
I used to intern there.
What's that?
I used to intern at Larry's shop.
So, The question is, well, you probably got a call from Larry. How do you balance, the innovations that you want to do and the way it moves forward when you're getting pushback from, these galleries that have the biggest artists in the world?
Controversial, maybe hot take, but I think that those galleries that run the world are probably going to not run the world soon. And the people who will run the world have the mindset that G Money was describing. I mean, my accidental entree to NFTs was also Fortnite, and I end up in this position where I'm trying to explain the appeal of NFTs to the old guard frequently, given I'm a specialist at Christie's. I was recently giving a talk in Aspen to people who had never heard of NFTs before, trying to wrap their mind around it, and I used the Fortnite example. And the guy I was engaging with in the audience in the Q&A was like, "Oh, so this is something that like kids are into, right?" He said in a really kind of cynical way, and I said, "Yeah, and you know what kids turn into, right?" And there's this really awkward moment where he's like, "Oh yeah, so they're gonna want this stuff. This is what people want going forward."
We hear a lot about it being a bubble. We've seen a pullback over the last handful of days. What do you say to people who say it's a bubble? Pri, why don't you?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I firmly disagree. I feel like we're just kind of getting going. Of course, I'm a bit biased here. Flamingo as a community, it's right now 67 people. We've constantly are getting emails and individuals wanting to join this collective of people that are collecting NFTs. There's actually several DAOs that are spinning out of Flamingo. Some of the membership is overlapping, but it's really to harness certain subcategories of NFTs. So, for example, we have one that's going to be focused on the metaverse and buying digital land and building up the digital land, almost like a virtual real estate collective, if you will. We have something that's, in the gaming space. There's these games that are kind of dubbed play to earn. And so you play them and can earn real money for playing these games. And, it's definitely mobilizing people in developing countries and all over the world. So setting up a guild for that. There's talked about possibly shared ownership over a specific NFT. Like there's this alien punk that we have, which we actually, purchased back in January and are thinking about almost giving the community giving that to the community through a DAO structure where they can kind of decide the fate of this NFT and decide like whether or not it should be, a podcaster or like a real character in the metaverse. And so thinking about beyond just collecting NFTs and, it is a bubble is, I guess, in my view, a little bit simplistic just because there's so much energy around this community that we discussed. And there's so many more innovations happening around specific NFTs and NFT subcategories. I mean, every single week on crypto Twitter or through Flamingo DAO, I'm hearing about a new incredible NFT. And so I think people are thinking really critically about this. Like, for example, it's really still a pretty young, I guess, as far as the technology itself isn't that new. I guess it's been around for a couple of years, but as far as like the mainstream institutional interest in NFTs, like through the auction houses and elsewhere, I think we're really just getting going. So yeah, it could be like a short term, and there's a lot of it's commemorative to the price of ETH at a given moment. So some people might want to be, liquid. They see the price of ETH going up. So they're like, well, let me sell an NFT right now. And that drops the floor price for a couple NFTs. So, there's some mechanic between the price of ETH and the price of an NFT. Oftentimes, sometimes that doesn't affect certain collectibles.
Ooh.
Anyone else want to touch on the bubble?
Yeah, to build on what Pri said is, I agree. I think, when price action escalates quickly, it's because there's a good narrative there, right? It's because people are getting excited. But like more so than that is like when people tell me, oh, this is a bubble or whatever, to me, like the way I look at the world is everything's in a bubble right now, right? I can make a case, that the S&P 500 is in a bubble. So to me, when I take a look at NFTs and I take a look at like every asset class, and as an asset allocator, right, as somebody that positions my money for myself, Of course I want to be long NFTs, right? Because NFTs give me the most convexity on the upside, right? To me, being long, art blocks, being long a punk is the same exact trade as being long the S&P 500. But if I'm right, I'm going to get paid better, right? Because there's only a limited amount of quantity. There's a much smaller market. But to me, it's like, to people saying that's in a bubble, I mean, you can thank your central bankers, right?
Okay, so we got about a little more than 20 minutes left. I wanted to open it up to questions because I'm sure there are some. I don't know if there's a mic out there. If not, just stand up and ask.
Oh, I have a funny answer to that one. I got a cold email from the IRS, like Karen at the IRS.gov during the Beeple sale. But I just forwarded it to the lawyers, so I don't know. But they're definitely interested. That's what the email said. We are interested in NFTs.
Yeah, after the Beeple sale, I'm sure.
During the bidding, when the bidding was like at 13 million, I think was when we got that email.
Wow.
Anyone else want to touch on the tax question, or should we move?
I mean, I'm based out of Puerto Rico, so
I should be based out of Puerto Rico too, I guess. The tax question is going to kind of overlap with the KYC question as well, and kind of people revealing who they are. There's this kind of theme in crypto where there's a relative anonymity for 3-4 years. 3 years, I was this green CryptoPunk, went by Snowfro. Now my name is out there, and I feel like I can act like a normal human. But I miss very much my internet persona. But yeah, there's a lot of tax implications. There's some things that are actually pretty wild. Like, for example, in some countries, there's a maximum to how much you can donate to charity. And so for example, with our blocks, we are cognizant of kind of how intense things have been with the platform and are helping artists divert money to charity. So like, we're a 9-month-old organization that has facilitated $28 million to charitable contributions in the last 9 months. And what that means is that the artist might be like, this is stuff that's actually breaking stuff. Like, the artist might receive $3 million to give because they made $15 million in 3 minutes on a drop on our blocks. But there's a maximum amount of contributions that they can make without actually having to be taxed for it. And so they're actually being taxed on the amount of money that they were going to give to charity. In some countries, their accountants, governments are asking for letters saying, where is this money coming from? Like, it just seems like such an absurd amount of money. And there's some really serious tax implications kind of involved there, because if they can't get an accountant because the accountant doesn't want to do the work because they don't have a really legitimate way of proving who made this purchase. And in the crypto space, nobody knows who made the purchase. It's just a bunch of numbers. There's some kind of concern there. And then finally, once you get into a point where you're regularly selling something for a pretty big chunk of money, the IRS says, I don't really care if it's crypto or not. We want to know who these buyers are. And so, for tax implications and also just KYC implications. So it's all very, very, as a platform, scary. But we have incredible regulators, people that come from regulation that we get to work with on a regular basis and consult with. And we're just going to be proactive. That's the best that we can do. We can't actually take any measures because we don't know what those measures are. The clarity is not there. So we're just being as proactive as we possibly can, and as transparent as we possibly can, in anticipation of the government kind of coming in and saying, hey, we need more information. And I think just a year from now in this conference, there will be a much more direct answer. And I think the conversation, like a whole panel, could exist specifically on taxation principles in the NFT and crypto space.
What about the regulatory concerns you just brought up? I mean, when we look at tokenization, that's clearly security. Do you have any regulatory concerns at all? Being a platform,
we don't have regulatory concerns in terms of securities because as weird as it is, like, we are just selling art, but we are starting to get to a point in dollar value of initial sales where it does start becoming a little bit more scary. So again, we're just going to be very proactive, and ultimately, KYCing inside the crypto space is like that one, just like, you just don't do it. But if we're forced to do it, we're going to do it. I mean, I'm not shutting down art blocks because of some, dogma of everybody having to be anonymous. Like I'm not. Like I'd rather, if we lose 80% of our market, we lose 80% of our market, but we're going to comply because we think we're doing something that will transcend crypto. That's our target. I get to talk about that all the time. And to transcend crypto, if it's required to KYC and for people to know who they are, then that's what's going to be required. But we're not just going to jump into doing it for fun. Like I don't want people's data. I don't want to be responsible for anybody's information as long as I possibly can avoid it.
And I would just like to add on the DAO side, with Flamingo, everything is really, compliant. We make sure everything's above board. So on the KYC side, on the tax side, it is a limited liability company based in the US. Because it is for profit, everyone has to be accredited. We get all the proper requisite information. Just mailed the annual K1s last week. So in some sense, like joining a DAO could mutualize some of those concerns, which is great.
I actually didn't know you did all that. So that's,
it's fun.
Wyoming.
oh, there you go.
I sold Beeple and I also sold Warhol like a month afterwards, so it already happened. But I loved the Beeple sale. It was really fun. I thought it was an incredible price, and it sent a message to the world that what artists are doing in NFTs and virtual art is really meaningful and valuable. But we already did Warhol. Damien Hirst has a collection of NFTs called The Currency. Tom Sachs has a really successful collection of NFTs, his Rockets. So we're already seeing that in real time.
Yeah, I flew out here for the rocket launch. It was fun.
Yeah.
The global appeal is something that also really kind of, creates impact around the sales. I mean, are we seeing, when we list a Beeple versus a Warhol, for instance, you're having a wider appeal with the Beeple, right? Just based on the way it's been brought up and presented into the marketplace. That's actually a question.
So the Beeple sale very much spoke to a specific new audience, new to Christie's audience. It's actually a very established and sophisticated audience in and of itself, which is why I've just dove into this. But for Beeple, we had more than 40 bidders place bids, something like 48 or 49. And there were 20 bidders above $1 million, which is amazing. But only 3 of those 40 plus bidders were previously known to Christie's. So everyone else is brand new. That kind of shift is just insane. We never see those numbers in any category ever. And especially for a nearly $70 million purchase is just kind of staggering. So, but with Warhol, when we did the Andy Warhol machine-made NFTs, we did see more engagement from the traditional fine art world. 3 of the 5 lots in that sale went to established collections. 2 went to new NFT crypto collectors, but 3 went to people we've done business with previously. So we went from 3 people placing bids out of 50 in Beeple to 3 out of 5 of the lots in the Warhol sale going to the old world blue chip fine art collecting scene. So yeah, you're seeing a shift in real time too.
Go ahead. Oh boy, I can answer that one. So my perception on that is we just haven't got there yet with music. And, when you have labels and publishers as rights holders, it's incredibly difficult to license content. So that puts musicians in a place of either owning the content outright so they can do things with it in terms of NFTs, or do something that isn't music related. There's a whole bunch of complexity around that. And I also think the audience, and you guys might disagree, they're not 100% focused just on pure music NFTs right now. I think when we get into sharding and creating these other initiatives around those music NFTs, we'll see kind of more of a demand. I mean, you guys.
I think we'll also see a lot with Blau, with Royal, with the platform that he's developed. So I don't know if you're familiar with Blau and his album sale via NFT, but he also recently just announced the creation of a platform called Royal, which will allow artists to basically sell futures for their careers. If you love an artist, I like to use the example of Nirvana, because when Nirvana became super popular, a lot of their initial fans resented that. They were seen as sellouts, right? But Royal, what they're proposing is to allow the audience to also share in an artist's success. So instead of leaving the concert and buying a t-shirt at the merch booth, you can buy a token, and based on when you buy that token, you potentially can profit off of the artist's success. So that's, to my understanding, part of what Blau is trying to do with Royal. And I think it's one of the more innovative and exciting projects in the music NFT space so far.
I think my kind of point on that is, then you start to see the regulatory stuff kick in.
Yep.
And that's going to be complicated. And the thing that's so great about Blau and RAC and all those guys is they were part of the crypto community kind of way before, and it shows the impact of being part of the community. And I think back to your question, when you have an artist that comes in to try to do an NFT, and I don't know about you guys, but like when the NFTs first started really hitting, every artist in the world wanted to do one of these things because everyone wanted to make $1 million for a song. And, I think that's where some of the problems are going to come in.
So thank you for the question. I think that's really relevant compared to stuff that's been going on over the last couple of days. I don't have anything against NFTs on other sidechains, right? The thing that I've seen with Solana projects for the most part, like I think Solana Monkey Business is great. I love the artwork. But like what I've seen is a lot of copycat projects, right? Like Solana Punks, Bored Ape Punks. I don't know what they're called.
Apes.
Yeah, like whatever they're called, right? That's just copy and paste, right? So to me, that kind of like, unless people within the Solana ecosystem can kind of self-regulate themselves, like I'll use Tezos as a great example, right? Like there's a lot of great art on Tezos, right? Like there's a big collectors community going around Tezos because artists are going there, like high quality artists. I think the advantages that Solana has is obviously backed by SBF, right? Like you have your fiat on ramps, which is going to make stuff much easier. But I think you need to bring the talent, right? And so to me, it's like I'm by no means a maxi for ETH NFTs, but like as a collector before, I wasn't first to punks, like I was, I bought punks a year ago, right? But like to me, it's like, what do I see with regards to creativity and community and stuff like that? Like, interestingly enough, I think I reached out to Monkey DAO literally yesterday or the day before, right? Because I'm interested in it. I haven't made a decision yet, but it's interesting.
I think the other thing we should touch on is the fact that when ETH launched, Consensus did a really good job creating development on top of the chain. I mean, you have such a kind of outweighed proportion in terms of just development on Solana versus something like ETH. So I mean, those other guys got to catch up before they see the scale.
I also oh wait, go ahead.
No, I was just going to totally agree. I think the answer to the question, what we were touching on earlier about ETH, is just the developer community there, the Solidity language, everything there is just so far along in development that's I think what we were noting towards more before. Solana, I kind of agree. The copy and pasta thing is kind of, but Tezos is. I thought we touched on that, but the digital art community on Tezos I think is like brilliant, and I think there's actually several people buying on Tezos since there's a lot of similar artists both on ETH and Tezos is a bit less, so it's almost like an arbitrage opportunity for a few people as well. So yeah, I think ETH is a starting point for sure.
I just want to
sorry for hurting Solana.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't think hurting Solana should even be relevant here. Like Ethereum has been around for this many years, and I think that they have to prove themselves. And so I am very much an ETH maximalist. However, anybody in this space that could be closed off to innovation of any sort is completely counterproductive to the reason why we have had success in this space. So there's a couple things. Number one, Solana has trade-offs in terms of decentralization, which will eventually be addressed as the chain grows, but that is a very real trade-off. Ethereum is significantly more decentralized than Solana at the time being. In exchange for that, you get millions of transactions per second. That's fantastic. On Art Blocks, our problem is not trying to be able to handle millions of transactions per second. We are, however, interested in potentially having the minting of an Art Blocks piece happen on Solana, while the provenance exists on Ethereum layer 1. So we believe, at least, that each blockchain will have a really good, solid use case, and we will use each blockchain for each specific use case that it offers. And I think the friction is so high right now for new people entering this space and understanding what a gas fee is and purchasing something and it costs you more than a meal just to pay the network to process your transaction, because that's what it's like on Ethereum. And that's not what it's like on Solana, but that friction is already really high. And understanding MetaMask, which is the plugin that everybody uses to operate on Ethereum, is really high. And then asking that person that has decided to dive in to also try to wrap their brain around a whole nother blockchain and potentially another extension, and understanding that they're transacting on, it's just too much. So Solana is going to have to prove itself. I believe in Solana. I have a couple of projects that I'd like to see happen on Solana. Right now, there's a knockoff of my own project called Soul Squiggles that literally is copying my code and generating 10,000 my piece of art on Solana. And it's literally like every project on Solana right now that has come across my desk has been a knockoff. And I know that they're not all like that, but it just feels
well. Having said that, Noah, I mean, in the traditional art world, I mean, you can look at Warhol and anyone else. I mean, the greatest compliments of derivative work from an artist. So, I mean, you can argue that CryptoPunks having so many like derivative works, elevated CryptoPunks.
I totally agree.
100%. Yeah.
So
it's the derivative difference versus derivative and straight up just like carbon copy. That's where it kind of feels. I feel kind of naked on Solana just because my project is out there without my signature. But
yeah, it also is not using appropriation as a conceptual technique. It's really just about securing the bag, and that is not cool.
No.
That's not
Solana
artsy.
will be. There's internal conversations, and we believe that Solana will be one of very few competing layer 1 blockchains that will be around in 5 years and 10 years. So nothing against Solana, but it needs to work its way up. Much work has gone into Ethereum for another one to come in and within the first year start saying, well, what about me? Like, no, like let us get there, and that's my stance.
It could be the Pepsi to the Coke. There will be a Pepsi.
Oh yeah, there will.
Go ahead.
So yeah, I'll take that. Like I think it's gonna happen slowly, right, over time, and then suddenly, right? Like that's something we always use, slowly then suddenly. I think the real advantage to that, right, is to having stuff on chain. And like every time we have a massive drawdown in crypto, I love it, right? Because it just makes us more anti-fragile, right? In May, we had a 50% drawdown and nobody needed to get bailed out, right? So what if I had mortgage-backed securities on chain and they're collateralized and everything, and you have your counterparties and all this stuff, and then there's some seismic event that happens and it causes a massive drawdown, and you don't need central bankers coming in, right? So that's, to me, is the advantage. You're not rehypothecating collateral. You're not like, you don't necessarily have counterparty risk as much because it's on chain, right? So like, to me, that is like the best advantage of all, right? Like we just had, I don't know, 20 or 30% drawdown last weekend. Nobody needed to get bailed out, right? People that took on a ton of leverage, for sure, they lost a ton of money, but for the most part, if you're operating well in the system, you don't have to worry about losing your money, right? Which is kind of like the essence of where crypto came from, right? Like, Satoshi, came up with Bitcoin, from the depths of the financial crisis, right? So like to me, like bringing these assets on chain is just like the perfect complement to that.
Oh man. Oh,
Yes.
Oh my god.
He has good taste. He has great taste.
It's just growing pains. This is really happening fast for everybody here, and it's simply there's an oversubscribing towards what we have to offer, and there's a limit to what we can offer, and there's more people that want something than what we have to offer. And our goal, for example, at our blocks long term, is to have open projects ready for minting at any given moment in time. And we just can't get there right now because things are completely batshit crazy.
Yeah.
But we will, because this is also, I don't think we're in a bubble, but we're also in an unsustainable, like, somebody said the other day, if our blocks continued at its pace, it would be 10% of the entire worldwide art market. Like, no, just like Solana can't have authority in decentralization in its first year, our blocks cannot have authority in the art world in its first year. And so it's just going to have to calm down a little bit. We're all just kind of waiting for that to happen, really excited for it to calm down a little bit. And I promise you that there will be the ability to mint things on our blocks and other NFT platforms for $50 and $100 in the next few months.
Well, you guys are also addressing this in real time too, with like the Dutch auction style that you've rolled out more recently. So I mean, that's the
it's completely crazy. I would disagree. I think it's very much doing what it's, especially when there's not too much oversubscription. So like last week, both Dutch auctions ended up at the very base price. That's exactly what we need, and I'm pretty not on the curated, but they also didn't sell for $30,000 a piece either. But yeah, no, I mean, I think we're on the right track, and there's just a lot going on and a lot of things to address. And
if the gas fees are high, it means that people want to use the network. So I think it's a good problem to have. It's the best problem you can have because it means there are tons of people knocking at the door.
For now, but there was 4 months where it was not. So that's the thing. We just have to kind of be patient. A lot of people are coming in and be like, I can't participate. And I'm like, just wait a little bit, because you're right. Right now, I don't introduce anybody new to our blocks right now. Whereas for 4 months, I literally, anytime I was like, check this out, for $200, you can have this piece. I don't do it. And I'm the founder. So I'm not buying at these prices, and I'm the founder. So, we just kind of have to take a step back and understand that it is going to go back to like normalcy. And if it doesn't, then we're onto something really, really, really crazy here too.
But I think that's also one of the cool things is, I'm an advisor to an NFT thing. You guys are all owners of companies. And when we go to, when a drop happens, I mean, often we don't get anything.
Yeah, I do. I sure as hell do.
There's been plenty of times where we couldn't get it. And, on the gas fees, it's like there's enough demand with a lot of the hotter projects that the gas fees don't even matter. I mean, people are like bumping the gas to get the art.
Yeah, I mean, well, I think with regards to user adoption, right, is like you just need a more consumer-friendly thing, right? If you take a look at probably some of the more successful stuff in the space that brought in, let's say, normal people, right? You're looking at NBA Top Shot, Nifty Gateway, right? What do they have? They have a great user experience. Just because we don't have that just yet doesn't mean we won't get there, right? Like the beautiful thing is we're going to get there, right?
We will get there.
I think we're going to have to wrap it up, but we want to thank Salt and the panel. Go ahead, Justin. Sorry.
Before we wrap it up, I do want to say something, and then we can clap. I think it is important what you said about accessibility and education and onboarding. I think, we're so locked up in our echo chambers, it's like second nature at this point. But to step back into the place of how do we create accessibility for people who can't afford $1,000 gas war, or, I think the way to do that is to create experiences and proof of attendance things. Like one of us should have created a proof of attendance token and gave everyone here an NFT, like the Lost Robbies. And I think that's a great start in getting people, a wealth redistribution of some sort through NFTs. And I think as we keep having conferences and events and whatnot, we'll have those NFTs to be given out. And I think that's where you could start. And maybe it's our responsibility to onboard and educate you all, as well as, creating the dialogue of what your feedback is. Like, hey, how do we get involved? We want to. And I think it's, how do we make it more accessible where the price isn't only for the 1%? And on top of that, I think I would love to end this conference with a positive note in saying, I think NFTs and having a nonprofit organization will create a huge disruption in how nonprofits will start fundraising, as an NFT is a tool. Just from my own experience with Save Art Space and seeing how we could raise like $500,000 in 3 days when it took us the past 5 years to even accomplish that, is a testament to what NFTs can achieve if you have the right audience that will back you. And we don't have to rely on donors anymore, but just projects we create that create sustainable in perpetuity value. And I think we'll start seeing a lot more nonprofits creating wallets so they could take our crypto money.
I want to thank Salt, Anthony, and John for letting us do this, and thank the panelists.
Thank you. Thank you.